Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Atomic Self-Love Project. It is the 7th of February in Australia, and my guest this evening is actually from Arizona. So it is 3 o'clock in the morning for her. So for those of you who are on the show tonight, say hello on the chat, on the comments below, and let us know where you're from. So the show tonight comes with a trigger warning because it's going to be a full frontal, honest conversation between two adult women speaking to other women out there. The Atomic Self-Love Project has been made and is really all about showcasing ordinary women who are creating extraordinary lives. And that can mean many different ways. For a lot of us, and in the many conversations that I've had with women who are pursuing the higher purpose that they see themselves to be doing, they have all come from some kind of a pain in the past. And so one of my passions is to just be able to open up and just be able to show courage. And opening up means being able to be vulnerable and being able to share our stories together. What I find is that the stories that we have from our experiences and from the experiences of our loved ones, we don't really own them as such. Yes, they happen to us. And yes, they have made us who we are today. And they are the memories that we have in our childhood, in our pre-adolescent. It occurred around us. But the reason why they're not really just for us is because what I found is all these stories have commonality, and we share the same feelings, we share the same path, and we share the same purpose, that is to seek our truest and highest versions of ourselves. But our journey is very individual, it's very unique, and the importance of being able to share that around is that from every little story, there is a nugget of golden wisdom. There is someone who is waiting for the lifeline that you are throwing at them. There is someone who has been looking for an encouragement, an answer, a loving word, or a question that they need to be answered. So tonight, I am so excited for this conversation. And for those of you who have never been to the Atomic Self-Love Project, I wanted to just give you a little bit of an insight how the Atomic Self-Love Project came about. So a few years ago, I decided to transition from being a corporate employee to owning my own business. And it so happened that the first business I owned was in the personal development industry. And in this business, I was able to look deeper into who I really am and what I was really capable of. And so this business catapulted me to seek, higher things and deeper truth. And I ended up one day, I bumped into a boot camp, into a speaking boot camp. And my mentor in that boot camp, after listening to me share a story, he told me that your story needs to be heard. And my story was very painful at the time for me because, like, when I was in the corporate industry for 12, 13 years, I've never actually shared my real story, my origin story of what makes me who I am, because it was such a painful story that I didn't think anyone would be interested. Well, at least I'm not interested because it just brings up so much pain. So when I was encouraged to share the story, I found that in sharing the story, there was so much healing in it. And so I pushed myself not just to speak, and I had opportunities to speak not just in front of women in Australia, but also women in different parts of the world. But I pushed myself not just to speak, but to write the actual story. So in 2020, I published Become the Woman of Your Dreams, which is the very first true story that's ever been written about the epidemic of abandonment in the Philippines. And that was what happened to me, is that I was abandoned at a very young age. It was a decision made by my mother. And this decision had led me to be exposed to different and many types of abuse, psychological, sexual, uh, just all emotional. And so I wrote it in the book from a place of healing and forgiveness. And it's one thing to read the book from that perspective, but to write the book and be able to come from that place was a whole different level of healing. And so what I discovered though, once people started reading the book, is that I didn't really own the story. It was a story of many, many, many people, from the abandonment, from the loneliness, from the isolation, from the imposter syndrome, all throughout the moments of victory, the moments of inner child access and in integration. And so the Atomic Self Love Project had been born because all this time that I was healing and talking about the story, is that I've discovered in talking to many people the paradigms of self love. And what that's about is, I have discovered that all of us, and there is no exception, any type of human being, we all love ourselves. We have a certain level of self love. So every decision, every thought that we think, every action that we take is designed to protect us, to nurture us. The only little problem with the paradigms of self love is that most of the paradigms of self nurturing and self care and self protection and self preservation and self love that we practice on a daily basis, they are self love belief systems that we have inherited from the people that raised us, who have also inherited those beliefs and self-love paradigms from the people that raised them, and so on and so forth. So unless we examine our own paradigms of self-love, it's all secondhand intergenerational belief systems that we don't even know if they really work for us. And so I discovered that the paradigms have two sides, which is fearless and fear-based. And when you come to a fearless paradigm of self love, more often than not, when you are faced with a situation in your life, in a dire situation, you only need one of these paradigms, these fearless paradigms, to transcend that obstacle. And this comes, and this is where atomic self love is born from. Because when you are in a situation where you only need one little aha to remember who you really are and what you really are capable of, then you can transcend that obstacle. I always love to share the story of Wonder Woman, the movie that was released in 2017, not the one that was released in 2020. But in the last scene of that movie, Wonder Woman was fighting her own father, Ares. And she was really tired and she was almost about to give up because she thought that her father was just much stronger than her and had more superpowers. She was wrapped by her own father in a metal around her body, and she was on the verge of giving up. And what happened was, as she was lying on the ground and just deciding to give up, she saw the love of her life fly in an airplane. He was a pilot, Steve. He flew an airplane full of bombs that was meant to destroy the world, which was planned by Ares. And when Wonder Woman saw that kind of service, that kind of sacrifice, the sacrifice of love, the sacrifice of service, she was reminded that her superpower is her love for the world. And that atomic type of love gave her and made her make the decision that I am not going to be beaten by, even if it's my father. And so she unshackled herself and she just rose to the occasion and transcended the entire scene and beat her father. And so it was a happy ending. I mean, obviously the love of her life passed away. That was the sacrifice. But to remind herself of one fearless paradigm, which is the love and the service. And so tonight I am so honored to present to you a woman that I've met through the internet, which we do a lot of times nowadays, ever since COVID hit us. So when I first spoke to Smitha, I was enthralled and I was gobsmacked by her story. So this woman was born and raised in India, and Smitha had experienced things when she was a child that had led her to believe and led her to feel that she was less than being worthy. And so it's led her to experiences and relationships that were abusive, a marital relationship, a neglectful parent-child relationship. And what's remarkable about her story is that Smitha is so much like many, many, many women that I speak to, because she was so successful in what she did. as she worked for really massive corporations back in India, and she was highly paid, and you could never tell that she was living a double life. And I see this in many women who are CEOs, who are lawyers, who are major players in corporations. I myself had a successful corporate career, but no one could tell that when I got home at night, I felt less than worthy. And it happens to so many women living a double life. And it's because we don't know where to go. We don't know who to approach, and we don't know if anyone ever cares to listen. And so what happened on a particular day, after just copying so much abuse, there was one day in Smitha's life when she decided that this is enough. And that's now led her to further success, in being able to become fully independent and let go of things that were really shackling her, and create a life for her and her child, and move to a different country. And now she has created a podcast, which is a podcast just really having exactly the same type of conversation we're going to have tonight. Very honest conversation, very very upfront conversation. And again, I just want to encourage you, if you want to hear more of Smitha after this show, there is a link above this video to subscribe to her podcast. I just wanted to remind you as well that this is just an honest conversation. If something triggers you, feel free to just mute the video or reach back out to me. There is a link above this video as well for a free breakthrough call. I can help you further if you need some more help when it comes to confronting memories and just how to move forward in general. Before I formally introduce my beautiful, beautiful guest tonight, let me just check our Facebook and see. So I've got, I wanted to say hello. So we've got Ren Haskell. Hi, Ren. Yes, I'll give you a link for the book. Natasha. Um, Hi, Natasha. Hi, Azra. Great to see you here again. So we are not having affirmation cards today, but we are actually having a conversation about self-love, about how to transcend pain so that you can have passion and purpose. So I've got Melinda. Melinda says, hello, I've just stepped into a new project. Okay. Tony. And DJ, great to see you. Yeah, those live backgrounds are buzzy. Yeah, thank you. It's cool. Hey, Tony. Alrighty, so we'll go ahead. So, Smitha is here with me tonight. I'm just gonna put her on the actual speaker view. My beautiful, beautiful friend and guest, Smitha Gunturi, the creator of the Journey podcast. Are you here with me tonight? How are you, darling?
Hey, thanks for inviting me first off. And that was a great introduction that you spoke about. Personally, I know that I have heard that before, but hearing you talking about your pain and the purpose that you are doing and the way you are serving people, it's really amazing. Thank you for having me.
That's my pleasure and my honor. I can't get over the fact that, it's 3 o'clock for you and it's winter there as well. So I'm glad you're very nice and comfortable in the heater. So Smita, I always think it's very important for for us to understand you before the successful and the strong woman that you are now. Take me to the world that you were in, and take me to the pain that really evolved into a passionate endeavor. Yes, please.
Before I get started, I would like to ask you, like, how long do we have? Because I don't want to like confine to
We
one
have,
specific time
yeah.
topic and then yeah, leave the rest. So if you can tell me like how much time do we have, I'll try to.
We have approximately 35 plus 10 is about 45 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'll try to fit in. Okay, when you were mentioning about like, yeah, my life started as a child itself, being an adult in childhood is not that easy. Why I just say like you're being adult in childhood. Things started happening to me when I'm 7 years old. I was sexually abused by a 55-year-old man. He was a construction worker in the same building, in the same house that we were living in. And whenever I used to play around, he used to grab and then he started it. And the first couple of times itself, it felt different. I came back to my parents and I again explained to them like, hey, this is what is happening with me in whatever the ways that I can understand at that age. I tried to explain it to, not explain, I have to say, like I just told my parents, this is what happening with me. Little that they understood, and the person who was doing to me was right behind me, came running to my parents, picked me up right in front of them, kissed me on my cheek again, and told them like, hey, your daughter is explaining to you that I'm kissing her. Yes, I'm kissing her. And he kissed me again before them and saying like, I've been missing my granddaughter because I'm here for work. Since your child is like related to that age, I'm so much like into your daughter. Hope you don't mind me playing with her. Little that my parents understood at that time, they were like, what's the big deal there? I mean, why are you making it a big scene coming back home or something like that? One thing that I feel there is like lack of awareness of these things happening. There is no proper education for my parents to understand like, yes, these things happen. It continued for like a couple of years. And then another person joined, I have to say. He was not actually completely sexually abusing, but he was molesting a lot. Then a couple of my own uncles who were there at my house. One was my mother's brother, and the other one was my dad's brother. My dad's brother calls me his daughter. He doesn't have kids, but he used to carry me or like take me everywhere, saying that I'm his daughter. But behind the scenes, what he does with me is not even acceptable. But that continued until almost like age of 17, from 7 on and off. It was not like a continued thing, except for the first couple of years with that old man. But the remaining people were like on and off with me. At the age of 17, I started understanding what is happening with me because puberty hit me. I know the bodily changes. I know what is going on around. So when I actually started understanding what it is, I also learned to say no. Though it was a no, just for the sake of saying it, but for me, inner me doesn't really have that kind of a strength. I don't even have, I don't know what to even put it. Like I can't really like stand up for myself at that age, or even to say anybody like, hey, you're not supposed to do this with me. I'm not that strong. But I did say them like, yes, no. Why I was able to say no was like, I met my ex-husband in my college at that time, and he was expressing his interest in me. And for me, in my culture, we don't have a concept called dating. It is like if a guy comes and talks to a girl, it's like, okay, you wanted to get married to me. That is the only reason you'll come and talk to me. So eventually it goes to my parents. He goes to my parents and talk to my parents asking for my hand. If my parents accepts like, yeah, okay, yes, we'll let my girl marry you. That's how it gets arranged and we get married. There is no concept of like, yeah, dating or like moving ahead or any of that. When my ex-husband was like coming and expressing his interest in me, the security that it got me was very interesting for me. None of the other guys or like any other people around me were not coming near me to even talk to me because they know that this guy is interested to get married to me. It's not like a time pass or he's not abusing me or any of it. He just expressed his interest and he wanted to get married to me. That level of security was really, really good for me. And the reason for me to say no at the house to my uncles, and also when it stopped, was like my uncle asked me a question back. I know that this guy is interested in you because by the time like a couple of people here and there started talking about like, hey, it seems like this guy is interested and he's coming home and asking about her and things like that. My uncle interestingly asked me like, seems like you're another guy is coming and asking your hand. Don't you feel like learning how to satisfy your man? That's what his question to me. And I was like, I don't want to use any words here, but yes, I really answered him like to take his hands off me. And then he challenged me saying like, do you think that you are going to go and talk to your dad right now? Your dad is not going to believe you. That trusting at house was not there at all. That listening to me was not there at all. I did not come and explain anything to my ex-husband, but however, when he came home and asked about this and these kind of conversations were going on, all these people were understanding there is a guy right next to me. Regardless of what is happening, when this guy is coming and standing next to me saying like, hey, I'm here for you, nobody was having that guts to come and stand in front of me to do any other thing. So I was like, though I did not really like my ex-husband, I actually told him that I did not say any of these scenarios and what is happening to me, but I did tell my husband, like, hey, don't mind me saying this. I'm not really in love with you. I know that you love me, but if you really give me a chance to love you back after marriage, probably I'll start loving you. It depends on how you treat me or like how you take care of me. Everything matters for me. But for now, right now, I don't really have any feelings for you. If you're okay with it, I'm okay to get married because I have to marry somebody. I'll rather marry you, knowing a person that is like, yeah, for me, for my inner feeling, I'm having security. And for you, you are interested in me. So, yeah, let's get married for whatever the reasons it is. He agreed, and his parents agreed, my parents agreed, and it got arranged. We got married. And it took almost like 6 years for all these conversations back and forth with the parents and everything like that. As soon as I got married to him, the first dialogue after we got down off the altar from him was like, you made me to wait for you for 6 years. Do you think that you are such a worthy person? You are at my foot right now. I'll see your life. This is what the first dialogue came from my husband after marriage. I'm like, I did mention to you that I don't really love you or any of that. So why is this? And he explained like his ego was hurt a lot because when he approached me expressing his interest, I did not answer him in a positive way, and every other person around that knows about it. So he couldn't take it. His ego was hurt. He was like, at any cost, I have to marry, no matter what it is. Once I marry you, I wanted to really teach you a lesson where it goes. I'm like, okay, fine. But even at that point of time, for me, is like, I can be that perfect wife that he is expecting. So nothing will happen to me. I'm fine. I don't really care about anything. Okay, he don't want me to dress certain way. Okay, I'm not dressing. I'm fine with it. He don't want me to talk to somebody. I'm fine. I don't have to talk to anybody. He's there for me. So why should I talk to somebody? That's how I started slowly like accepting every piece of what he is doing. So more I started accepting it, the more he started getting into like, first it was verbal abuse, next it was emotional, then it was physical. It did not take years to get to physical. It was like just few months. Once it got into physical kind of an abuse, by then I was pregnant with my first child. And he said like, it's not going to work out between us. And my mother is also not interested in you. Can you leave to your parents for a bit of time? Then let me adjust with everything. Then we'll think whether we can continue our lives or not. I said, okay. And then again, I came back to my parents and I started my life here. I gave birth to my child. But when this is happening, the only thing that I felt was like, if I am just hearing him and putting myself into like, yes, I have to be the best person for him continuously, it's not going to end up anywhere. So I enrolled myself back into my school. I completed my master's. I started looking for my career. The only thing I realized when I was doing that was like, he's financially interested a lot. So he always tried to see that financial gains from my side. So every time I wanted to do something with my career or with my life, I throw something at him, which is like whatever when you are explaining about me, like everybody has this perfect corporate lifestyle, but after coming home, that's not what they're having, this double life. So I was throwing that nuggets to him to show him like, yes, I can be this person where I'm like double or triple times of his salaries and things like that. But slowly it started into where like, okay, I'm earning more. I'm better than him in education, and people respect me better than him, and all these things added up a lot. And 3 years later of my marriage, I think I was pregnant with my second child. The abuse came into a place where I lost 5.5 months of pregnancy. The way he kicked me and threw me on the road, saying that kid doesn't belong to me. I said, like, you can take me to any kind of a testing you want. It's 5.5 months, so obviously there is a baby inside me. I just can't take it out. So you take me anywhere, you give me any kind of a testing. I'm fine with it. If it is proved it is not your baby, you can leave me or like you can kill me on the spot. I don't really care. But if it is proved it is your child, you have to stop doing this. He was like, I don't care whether it is mine or not, because even if it is mine, you are sleeping around with somebody. That kind of a mentality started and it never stopped there. And yeah, for years it continued in the same way. I lost that baby for that. At that time, how I understood that I lost the baby is after him physically abusing me. After a couple of days, or like 3 4 days later, once the bruises came down, I had to go to hospital and had the basic checkup. So when I went there, the doctor wrote me a forced abortion right away. I asked, like, yeah, why do I need to get an abortion right now? And it's 5.5 months old baby. I already know the baby inside, and I was actually feeling the baby moving inside me. And she was like, I don't want to keep talking to you too much, but this is not the way it should be. When I pushed her to explain me the details, all I could understand from her is like, baby is dead inside for more than a week by then. And then I was like, she herself had a question like, I don't know how you are alive after the baby passing away for so long. And it itself seems to be a miracle for me. So you have to get it aborted. And I was rushed to an emergency. By that evening, 4 o'clock, I was in a surgery. And then, yeah, my baby was out. All I was requesting her is like, by this time, girl, whether it is a boy or a girl, will be known 5.5 months. So I wanted her to show me my baby. I asked her, like, I wanted to see one time, whether it is a girl or a boy. I just wanted to see. I understand it's not there anymore with any kind of life in it, but I just wanted to see. She did not let me see it, but unfortunately, I was able to see that. There was no baby at all. It was all pieces of blood clots or blood chunks, because the beatings that I have taken so hard on me was actually like affected my baby inside a lot. So that's how I felt like, okay, whatever I do with for this person, it's not going to be enough. And slowly, though I was earning a lot, I wanted to leave my place and then move to a corporate world, completely into a different place and things like that. Now that though, and one more thing, like once I lost the baby, I requested the doctor that I don't want to give birth anymore. For me, at that point, I feel like I'm not worthy of having kids anymore. I shouldn't be having giving kids to this person anymore. I forced myself to get the tubectomy done, and I stopped kids after that. I never had kids. I never had any sort of life at all. Living that there, I moved, as I said, like, yeah, I moved to a different city and started living there for a more kind of a corporate job and a very wealthy, good life. I started showing that to him. The way he started getting used to it is like, anything that I get into the family, any amount is not enough. So he started selling me out to other men. After a bit of time, he just took me to somebody one day and then he was like, hey, can we go for a movie? This is what the conversation exactly. He asked me, can we go for a movie? And I said, like, yeah, why not? It was like a late night show. I said, okay, fine. At 10:30 p.m., we started going for a movie. And he said, like, I just need to make a stop in between because somebody has to give me some money. I just have to take that and leave. Is that okay with you? And I said, okay, fine. If it is just a pickup for like few minutes, why do I need to ask? I said, like, okay, fine, let's go. I don't want to put a fight for anything with him. Whatever he asks, I'll just do it, no matter what it is. So when we were actually like, yeah, going for that movie, we made a pit stop in between, and he asked me like, hey, can you just go inside and sit inside that room? excuse me, I'm getting a phone call. I'll just finish this phone call and come inside. I said, okay, fine. I went into a room. There was a man sitting, and the man was actually waiting for me. I don't know that. He was like, so what do you do? The man inside that room asked me like, what do you do? I was passionately talking about my education, my career, my son, all the things in the world. He just listened to me like for about 10 to 11 minutes, 12 minutes. He heard me, whatever I have to say. And then he asked me like, do you even know why you came in here? He asked me that question. And I'm like, he told me that you are giving him some amount and he just had to pick up and we are on the way for movie. Then he again asked me like, what are you actually to him? And I said like, I'm his wife. Why do you ask? He doesn't have any words. He asked me like, can we please leave this room and then stand on the road if you don't mind? I said like, yeah, sure, why not? We walked onto the road. We were standing there for about 10 minutes or so. And then my husband was like walking towards us. And then he was like, when this guy saw my husband walking towards us, this guy told me like, you have to leave this bastard. His exact words. You have to leave this bastard and live your own life. You're not going to go anywhere with this guy. Then I asked like, why do you say that? What is happening here? And then he explained me like, you are here because he sold you for me. This is the exact amount we spoke about. And I did not even know that you are his wife. Now that you are talking about like, yes, you are his wife, I understood what is going on with you. So not every man will be like this or like, yeah, to give you that respect. So if you wanted to leave, you can leave. Then I saw my husband. I did not say anything at the time. I don't want to. He acted like so innocent, asking this guy like, hey brother, is everything fine with you? I did not expect that you guys will be standing on the road. So is that okay? Or that guy just smiled and he just threw the money at his face and walked away. He did not even say his name, asked my name or anything, but he still paid for me for that night and he left the place. He said only that word, like, yes, you have to leave this bastard. That's the only thing he said, and he left away. Then I understood, like, okay, whatever I do for this guy is never going to be enough, or he'll never be happy. And I told you, like, in our previous talks one time, when you asked me, like, what is that one moment when you are even giving the introduction, you were talking about the Wonder Woman moment. Likewise, for me, the moment for me is like, once he understood that I am to a stage that he cannot touch me, physically, he cannot abuse me anymore. The only other thing that he can abuse is my son. 80-year-old, my son, that is the first time. All these years, I don't want my son to be with me, looking at my life like that. Though he is physically abusing, whatever the abuse that is happening to me, apart from that, he also used to get a lot of women to house. They were in my house, in my own bedroom, having fun or whatever you wanted to call it as. He used to have all these things. So I don't want my son to look at his father like that. I'm really good at hiding that part. So I gave up my son to my parents, asking them to take care of him. They agreed it because they were also like, yeah, we also need some kind of uh, life or whatever, the time pass or fun. So he's the first grandchild of our entire family. So they were like really enjoying with him. They don't want to give him away. And I was actually using that excuse for them. For the first time, my son came back to us to live with both of us together. And then less than few months itself, my son started looking at all these things that are happening to me. But he never spoke to me anything. But that one moment was like, once my husband understood that he cannot beat me anymore with the way the life is becoming. And there were a couple of people right next to my apartment called 911 at that point of time and complained on us. So this guy understood like there is nothing much that he can do on me. He started putting his hands on my son. He started beating my son a lot. And one day, in such moment, one day I saw there was a TV remote imprint on my son's back. I asked my son, like, what is happening? My son ran up to me and he was like, he was just closing my mouth not to talk loud. I was like, what is happening? He was shivering and he couldn't even say any word. I asked him, like, what is exactly happening? Why are you shivering? And why is that TV remote on your back? Then he said, like, Dad was asking me to spy on you. 24 hours he was asking me what you are doing, whom you are talking to, what is your office hours, or like where you are going, what you are doing. Every little bit of it, just in case if I say I don't know any day, this is what I get. And he said, like, if I'm ever going to tell this to you, he'll kill both of us. So I never told you this, but this was happening from a very long time. That very long time was not even like few months, because that's the first time he's living with us. He doesn't know his father. While he was explaining that, end of that conversation, my son just asked me one question. Mom, if you think I need a father in my life, do you think he's the person? Do you think he's the guy that we have to live with just for the sake of having a father? Can we leave him and walk out? 8-year-old son coming up to me asking that question was like a life changing moment. Even now, when I think that, I really go emotional for that. When I heard that from my son, I asked, like, what exactly are you asking? Are you proposing that we leave him? But remember, once if we step out, we will never be able to see or like come back to him. He was like, I don't want him. Can we leave? That very day, I just like picked up whatever the clothes that I have in my hand. I could not take a bag or anything right in front of this guy to walk in the hallway. So I picked up whatever I can, like a couple of dresses for my son and a couple of dresses for me. I've just thrown down from the upstairs to through a patio. I collected them on the downstairs. I lived on the streets. I know how it is. I tasted the life as a homeless person. And somebody tried to help me, like, yeah, to pick up my life where I left off. I did not leave my job, but I took a leave there. I just put a PTO kind of, and then I told them I'm sick and I'll come back later. With this friend's help, I was able to, like, yeah, go back again, take an apartment, and then started settling down. But every time I go to a new apartment, my husband will knock my door in less than 2 hours saying, I know that you're living here. Don't think that you escaped from me. You're never going to go away anywhere from me, and I'm not going to leave you. I'm like, okay, fine. What else can I do? I wanted to come out of you. I came out. I'm actually writing in the leasing office that they should not legally allow you inside the building, but how much they can keep a security around me. If you're always trying to come around, there is nothing anybody can do. But yes, let's see how far this goes. At the age of 14, around 13 and a half, 14 around, I wanted to apply for a divorce. The moment he understood that I'm going for a divorce, he came back saying, at the point of time, he's not working. He's completely dependent on me. He's on my visa, dependent visa. He was not working. And then he mentioned, like, if you think that you're going to escape from me by getting a divorce, I'm not going to leave you without a custody battle. I'm not going to leave your son. I know that is your soft spot, and I'm going to hit hard that you will not be able to stand up. So for the custody battle, and he also mentioned, like, I can hire the best lawyer ever, for which you have to pay because you are the breadwinner of this family, and everybody know that I don't have a job. I'm dependent on you. So get ready for all these financial things that you have to pay for me, and also for the kids custody. And at that time, my son again asked me one question, like, if you really wanted to go for divorce, can I not have this custody battle? I don't want to go and see him. So I tried to, like, go around, meet many lawyers actually, and I met one lawyer at the very end. He was around 80 plus at that time. He was not even able to walk properly, but he gave me, I wrote a very big email to him explaining about my complete situation, and he replied back saying, like, I'll give you 30 minutes consultation free of charge. I said, like, okay, let me come and talk to you. He spoke to me for about like 6, 7 minutes. That's all he spoke in that 30 minutes. He asked me, like, I read your email, so what are you trying? I said, you know that I'm looking for divorce, right? And he asked me, like, do you have a boyfriend? I said, no. Are you again trying to get married? I said, no. Then why are you rushing out for divorce right now? What is the use of it, having it on a paper? Why are you rushing out for that? I said, yeah, that's true. Why am I rushing out for that? Then he was like, If it is not really bothering you in any way, having a divorce paper that you are not going to get married, I would actually suggest you to go for a restraining order instead of a divorce. A restraining order will actually help you for him not to come around you anymore, rather a divorce. I said, like, okay, then. He also said, like, get your divorce when your son turns 18 years. At the point of time, it will be just an application fee in the court. You don't really have to pay for anything. There won't be any child battle or anything like that. I said, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. We walked back. My son had his 18th birthday in 2018. My son right now is 20, and next month he'll turn 21. On his 18th birthday, my son actually gave the divorce application to my hand and asked me to sign it. He was like, "This is your ticket for your freedom, mom. You have to sign it now." I'm like, why did you even get this, that? And he was, I did not forget this all these years. So you don't have to feel that I forgot. Okay, fine. I just signed it. We both walked to the court. We gave it. And yes, I was able to get my divorce. And finally, I'm here. I know it's a long story. Yes, that's, I know.
Wow. Look, there's a lot of love on the chat for you. Wendy is saying, my heart breaks for you, darling. You are so very strong and courageous. Sending you so much love. And a couple of our viewers, in the beginning of the story, they felt, a bit sad, and there's going to be a great ending. So hang in there for it. So Wendy was also saying earlier, this is the problem. So many youngsters are too scared to talk, thinking or maybe feeling they won't be believed. It's tragic. You are a great ambassador for this cause. Thank you. So and some of the couple of the stories that you've told just then, Smitha, we didn't cover when you and I were getting to know each other. And so this is why there was a warning, a trigger warning in this show, because yeah, so I'm good now, but there was a couple of moments there that I was struggling to compose myself. So these are stories that are really confronting for you out there who are listening. And Smitha is able to share these stories with us because she has already transcended these, and but the importance of being able to iterate and to graphically really relate the stories is that so that you know that these things happen to you because you are vulnerable when if you are a child, because the psychological power, if you're 10, 14, or even 18, the psychological power of the abuser is so much more intense that it is really not your fault. And for the parents as well, it's the guilt is so immense when we are confronted by stories like these of our youngsters, and that's usually what blocks us from from really opening up to the possibility that there has been some abuse given to the child, whether that's our biological child, or a child that's been put in our guardianship, or even just a friend. So there is a lot of, I was talking to Debbie Lakin about 2 weeks ago in this same show about how we can talk more about child abuse, that it's just an ordinary conversation, that we don't get carried away by the stigma of it, because we need to talk more about this. And Smitha here has just been so generously and courageously given us an entire landscape of what one detached conversation can do to an entire life. There was a point when she was a child when she tried to tell, but there was that point when she was denied of her truth because she was a child, and there were adults around her, and that little point of detachment from her truth had paved the way for her, allowing all of these things to be received by her. And it wasn't until a catalytic moment when the love of her life, her child, had said to her, hang on, let's wake up here. What's going on? Because there was a man that was generous enough to say, you have to leave this bastard, but she wasn't so emotionally invested in there because she wasn't related to that man, even though that man cared for her. But when it was her child, it was that moment when you from a child's eye, that's what it is. Like, I see you as the bright shining angel, and this is, what are we doing here? And so from so that's an amazing and I thank you from the bottom of my heart and soul for sharing all of that with us. So what I'd love for you to share, Smita, is that the way that you had to be home. You were willing to be homeless. You were willing to risk your life and even the life of your child, for being homeless, just to protect just for that love, for your child, and to protect him so he doesn't go through what you have gone through. So there were things that, it was either you're going to die in that relationship, or or try and stay alive with a new hope, a different kind of perspective. And this is the scary part for most abuse victims, for those who are trying to thrive in spite of the abuse history that they have, is that how do we get the strength? Where do we get it from? And how do we follow through? Because often we make, abuse victims make one decision, they go back. One decision, they go back. It's like a vicious cycle. You get strong for a second and then you leave, but then you go back and fall into the trap. I know I have a few times, many years ago, many moons ago, before I healed. So what can you tell us so that we can remember, that we can go to bed tonight and just remember, in times that we are feeling weak, what do we need to do and remember, and say to ourselves, so we can remember our strength.
When you mentioned like you also even had a moments of withdrawal, like you took a one step before and again you fall back. The main reason that we all do that is we have a fear of judgment, we have a fear of freedom. Nobody will actually acknowledge those 2 points. Fear of judgment, at least people will think about it, but fear of freedom is a bigger part than fear of judgment. How I can say is like, yeah, fear of judgment is like you are thinking about another person, what other people will think about you. Let's just say my example, if I'm leaving my ex-husband, my husband at the time, my only thought will be like, what will this society label me? How are they going to treat me? What is that? There is a point that you will reach in your life to think about like, whatever others think, this is my life, I wanted to lead it. That's where you are actually like out of that fear of judgment point. But to reach to a point where you don't have fear of freedom, that is very, very crucial, and it is the hardest step that you can take for yourself. Every time you take one step, you will be like falling back 100 steps. But remember one thing, that one step is all you need to take. That one step is the hardest one that you have to take, you need to take for whatever the life that you are actually looking for you. For me, yes, my son gave that thought or the seed for me to move forward. But the strength inside me, even if at that point, if I tell my son like, hey, I don't think I can leave him and then go out, or like I'm afraid to do that, I'm scared to do this, I'm scared to do that, my son won't do anything to me. He won't even ask me anymore. He won't do anything. But what am I giving to him at that point of time? Almost like 30 years of my life, I cried with whatever the things for somebody not helping me. The first thing is like you are expecting from somebody to help you. You want somebody to rescue you from your moments, and you wanted to see that happy ending ever after, like right at the very next second. It's not going to happen that easily. You were slowly introduced to your traumas one day at a time for years together. But when you think like, yes, this is, I'm done, I can't take it anymore, you want the very next moment to be like with all light and very beautiful. It's not going to happen. Whatever this 10 years worth of pain that you are in, the next 10 or 20 years might also be the hardest moments that you are going to have to better yourself. But the first step when you take with that confidence towards your freedom defines your strength, and the confidence it gives to you to move forward, to keep moving forward until you feel yourself like, yes, this is where my peace is, or this is where my success is. That is the moment that you have to look for and move forward with. So
Yeah,
stop
that's so
expecting things
well
from
put.
other people. Yes, stop expecting things from other people. Even people say like, your shadow is the only thing that follow you. For me, I'll say even shadow will not be there at late night. Where is your shadow going? Your shadow is not going to be there. It is you, your soul, your spirit, or whatever your mindset is, what is giving you that strength. Stay with it. In the middle of the night, if I'm crying, it's my own hand. My tears are like wiped out with. So why am I looking for somebody there? And people will usually say, like, yeah, do journaling. At late night, if I'm having so much of pain in my mind and heart, am I going to get up, look for a book and a pen and switch on the lights and start writing it? If it works for somebody, yes, fine. But if it is not working out for me, it never worked out for me. I'll be honest, like, I never wrote any journal, I never did any of that. But what I used to do is, like, first few weeks, I used to write everything down. Like, yes, this is happening to me. That moment itself, to think like, yes, this is happening to me, is the biggest moment for me. Self acknowledgement of, yes, this pain is within me, this is happening to me, need to happen within yourself. You don't have to pick up a book to write for that. You can think, or like you can talk to yourself while you're like on the bed. Switch off all the lights, you don't have to do anything. Switch off and talk to yourself. Make yourself to hear the words that you say it out. The first time when I said I'm sexually abused at the age of 7 is to my son. Nobody will believe me when I say that. At 17 years old, my son was sharing a YouTube video where the other kids were sharing about their abuse. I was looking at that without even understanding. I started crying aloud. I was crying. I'm not shouting or anything. My tears were like falling out. And he was like, I know that you even cry by looking at cartoon films. I'm really emotional and funny that way. I even cry by watching Cartoon Network. So he was pulling me saying like, I know that even you cry by looking at Cartoon Network, but like right now, the way you're crying is like you're not actually crying, you're like sobbing, or the pain that you're having in your eyes right now. I never saw you like this, mom. What is going on? All I could tell him at that point of time is like, something like this happened to me when I'm a child. That is the first time that I ever spoke about it to my 17-year-old son. And I call him like my mini dad. That's what I call him, and his contact number in my phone, everything is like mini dad. Because that dad figure that has to rescue me was never there. So when I just told him that, he sat right next to me, holding me so tight for the whole night. And he said only one thing: Mom, at that point, you think that your father is not there, or he did not understand you for whatever the reason it is. Right now, I'm next to you. I'm here to help you, to keep you that in that secure place. You don't have to worry or like care about anybody anymore. And he's the one actually asked me like, if you really think that you can talk about your story, I want you to start talking about your story to people. A lot of people need to hear and get the strength from where you are getting. And that's where my podcast, or like my life, has started into a different level. So yes.
Wow. Wow. Just wow. There's so much wisdom there. The when you said about self acknowledgement and self acceptance, it's a big thing because when we are in pain, more often than not, we go towards denial. Oh, this is not happening. It's going to be okay. It will all be okay. And what you're saying, Smitha, is so true because it happened to me. Is that once you make a bold, radical decision, um, people seem to think that when you've made a bold, radical decision, straight after on the other side of that is the is the bright shining light. It's not. There is going to be a time of transition when you are going to be tested. How committed are you to the courageous act and courageous decision that you just made? And it's all about, it starts with, yes, this is happening to me, this sucks, this is painful, this is not where I want to be, but I've got to go through this. To get out of hell, you've got to go through hell. And usually when you make a radical decision, there is a transition time, and that could take some people 6 months and some people 20 years. It really
Exactly.
depends on you. Yeah. And even when you said be there for yourself, because sometimes even your shadow wouldn't be there for you. That's true. In the darkness there's nothing but darkness, and the only thing that can really be tangibly there for you are your thoughts and yourself when you touch yourself. So and when you know that you are physically there and you're still thinking for yourself. So it's very And what I see in your story is this: because you've done that, you've made that decision to be strong for you raised a child who had evolved to become the soul who you deserved as a child but never had. And
Yep.
now he's, like you say, yeah, it's your mini dad, like, encouraging you to be your best self, to be your most authentic self, to be vulnerable and put your story out there to help not just your story but many. My goodness, there's so many people just watching us tonight, and just there, people's lives being touched. And I know that someone out there tonight is going to go to bed and just um, think about stuff that are in their minds and in their hearts. And so I cannot thank you enough. So I wanted to just ask you one last question in the interest of time. Is that when, in times of, there is what we call a daily grind, right? So the life that you lead, you a single parenting, have a career, a job, you've got to maintain your health so you're not going to get sick, and all of these, and you live in the USA as well. I know it's a really really busy country, put it that way. So what's the woman to do when when they feel lonely, isolated, tired, fatigued, just these feelings that cause self-doubt in general? What can we do as women, like 2 3 things to make ourselves feel
Everybody
good?
I think like everybody will have a different interest in their life. They will definitely have that. Um, let's say, for example, if people are having hobbies, for me, gardening is one soothing thing that I have. Like being in middle of nature, I enjoy gardening a lot. I have like my friend's house really close by, and they have like a very big backyard. I also make wood furniture by myself. People will laugh at me listening to what kind of a hobbies that I have. Gardening, wood furnishing, I do interior designing and decoration for houses. I love to play with colors a lot. I learned beautician by myself. I'm a nail artist. I'm a certified nail artist. So I myself put into a lot of things where I feel like I'm comfortable, I'm enjoying. I love colors a lot, like looking into colors and all these things. So all these things that I'm doing are related to colors is what I'm thinking. Like beautician, being a beautician, yes, you are playing with a lot of colors on different people's faces, are doing a bridal makeup for somebody, you are looking at you are trying to make something like more beautiful and presentable. So I like that. And wood furniture is another thing that I make. Wood furniture, everything that I'm using at home is by handmade by myself, my bed and everything. I get enjoyment with those things. And I try not to have like a lot of empty time, I can say. You need to have that peaceful time, not like an empty time where you are going to be cooked in yourself and keep worrying that, hey, I'm that, I'm this. I heard a lot of people talk about affirmations by themselves, like I'm beautiful, I'm bold, or whatever that is. For me, the way I look at it is like, yes, I'm flawed, but I accept myself as flawed. No person is perfect in this world. Nobody is perfect. Everybody has their own flaws. Though you tell yourself like, yes, I'm beautiful, if I compare myself with you right now, for me you look more beautiful than me. I'll be honest. Is that, am I not beautiful in that way? Yes, I am. But what I wanted to do at the point of time is like, I'm accepting my flaws. I wanted to be flawed, I'm accepting my flaws, I wanted to better all those things and be a better person. So try to read a book. Try to read a book that motivate yourself, or like, yeah, put yourself into a thoughtful process that you wanted to. Some people might need a financial understanding of what they're doing. Even I need that. So if I'm having some time, I put myself into work, or like my thoughts into improvement of myself. We learn, we grow, we evolve every single day. So keep improving. And while you are trying to improve yourself, you can learn different kind of skill sets as well. Whether you want a skill set or not, if you don't want to just do anything and just wanted to watch TV, do that by all means. That gives you that a little time or like a break that you need to recoup yourself with more energy and to move forward. So that's how I look at life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love the differentiation between peaceful time and empty time. They're two completely different things. So yeah, so there's a saying, idleness is next to evil, and that's basically what it is don't have empty time, because it's the playground for things
It,
and the worries, and yeah, yeah. So one last question, if you wouldn't mind, is that how do we find in our heart to begin to forgive? What does forgiveness practice look like?
I'll be really honest and blunt with you for this forgiveness question. I have asked this question to many people, myself in my podcasting guests. For me, forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for me. I'm not going to go to my abuser today and say, like, hey, you have done this to me. I'm fine. I'm at a beautiful place right now. So I'm good with you. I forgive. I'm not going to forgive you because you know what you're doing. You did a mistake. You are the adult at that part of time, and you put your hands on a child, knowing that fact you're doing something mistake, but you still choose to do it. But I forgive myself because I don't know how to respond to you at that time. I don't have my inner strength to respond to you at that time. I'm vulnerable. I don't have support system. I don't have anything. That innocent child that came into your life, or like you came into my life, you destroyed mine. I'm trying to rebuild myself without having that guilt or shame or like blaming myself for that happening. So I forgive myself. I can't say like I forgive you because of what you have done to me. You have all your senses being an adult in that place. You did that to me. I'm not talking about any punishments or any of it, but if I ever get a fact to just talk to them, sit in front of them, just to have a peaceful conversation, I know that you will be dying inside you because of what you have done to me. But for me today, what I have been with all these experiences, I'm at a better place right now. But you are still with the same pain. Nobody can do anything for it because you chose to do it. Your life, everybody's life is the choices that they make. Everybody will have two things, like one is to make you, another is to break you, is what people say. If you are choosing something to break yourself all through your life, that is your choice. Keep at it. For me, I wanted to make myself in a better way, so I chose to forgive myself and move forward. That is what I call forgiveness for me.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. Thank you. So many things in what you just said there about forgiveness. And there's you know, I believe that the ultimate act of self-love is forgiveness. And it's not about thinking about the person that perpetrated you, the person that abused you, but it's about loving yourself enough that you can come to a place where you are free from guilt. You're free from any for guilt for thinking that what happened to you was partly your fault. Fear of people's judgments and what they're going to say, or shame for what happened to you. When you release yourself from these three trifecta of cousins, that is the ultimate act of self-love. And you mentioned, Smitha, when you said, if I ever face that person, I can sit there to have a peaceful conversation with no intention of punishment, but I know that you're going to be dying inside because you know what you have done, unless you have tried to heal as well. But it's the knowing where you are, and it's really not about them. I know where I am, and I know that where I am is where I've strived to be, and I'm free from anything but just love for myself. And whatever it is that you're going through right now, that's your stuff. I'm not here to vilify you or punish you, but that's your stuff. Like you say, it's either it makes you, and it's beautiful because um it's forgiveness is difficult to it's a concept that can become really difficult to understand because of the pain. And yeah, I think that there's so much about forgiveness to be unpacked so that we can all begin to really begin from a place of knowing that there is nothing to be guilty about, nothing to be fearful of, and definitely nothing to be ashamed of, because we are beautiful. So and I it's a beautiful way to end our conversation, and I am again very very honored. So I was wondering if I could squeeze in one last question. So I've got a couple of minutes.
I have
Uh,
time if you have time, so don't worry about the time. Keep going.
so how do you so talking to other women and people in general, what's how do you how do you allow them to express their vulnerability and the way that they can discover their own self-love, like through your conversations in your podcast? And I know you also help a lot of your son's friends and their friends, and so you have spoken to quite a lot of a big number of people, just helping them through their journey. So I'm interested from the point of view of Atomic Self-Love Project, is that what are the facets of people practicing their own self-love, and how does that play out in their everyday life?
If somebody is reaching out to me, first off, I know that they need some help from me. What they have to tell me, like what kind of a help they are expecting from me, or like what area they are looking. So a lot of people might not have that courage, inner courage, to just start off the conversation, to hit the conversation with an unknown person, just like that, saying like, hey, I'm having so and so trouble or something like that. So I start that at a very ground level for them, very basic level, just to even to say hi, bye, and how their day is, or like what is happening in their work, if they're working, or like if there is having some conversations inside their house, if they're comfortable enough to talk about it. So I talk to them on their level first. Usually, like if you are talking to people like in my podcast, for example, I have spoke to, so far the episodes that I have released are all our TEDx speakers. So when you're talking to that kind of a person, everybody will, even if somebody is listening to my second half of my conversation, people will just look at me, or like even you today, a successful author and a person who is leading this kind of talk shows or anything. If they know a little second half of our lives, the people will look at like we are somewhere there. They can't even reach to that point because they are at the ground level. They are just starting to heal themselves or like try to get themselves. But if you are going down to that stage and talk the conversation or start the conversations in that place, it will be a very easy conversation for them to open up. So how I deal with the people that I talk to, if I know, obviously, I mean, before even they get to me, I understand like what kind of a topic they have to even talk to me, whether it is child abuse, whether it is a divorce they are going through, whether it's a domestic abusive thing they are going through. So before I even ask them to talk about their scenarios, I would very high level, I'll give my scenarios. The way I just started this conversation, I talk about my vulnerable points, all of them, or like few of them, or depends on whatever they wanted to hear at that point of time. The minute you start opening up about yourself, you don't even need to close the sentence or like to complete the sentence. They'll start talking everything from their side because you are able to connect with them to their level. You're not standing here to talk to them like, yes, I'm a healed person, I'm like this greatest person in the world. They don't have to look at you to a corporate level speaker or like a coach or whatever that is. I don't know, I'm just giving you the names. If people are looking at you on that age, on that stage itself, for anybody to even to start that healing journey, it's not possible for them to reach to you because they
Mm.
look at you like you are completely healed and you are there. But for me, when I'm each time I talk to somebody like this, I feel my healing is happening still. I can't say like I'm completely healed. I'm like, yeah, super happy. Yes, I'm happy, definitely. But the journey that I'm having towards this healing process is where I'm happy with. For somebody who is
Mm.
just starting, they need to have that first step in a confident, positive way. If you can give them that hand to pull them into that first step, they'll be successful ever after.
Wow, that's beautiful. So true. It's that feeling that you are not alone, because someone actually understands you and really looking at you eye to eye level and just there for you without any judgment, any comparison. And often when we are hurting and closed up, we need someone to just give us a little glimpse of light, just a little opening of a window or a door to say, hey, look at this, we're exactly in the same space. I've been there. I see you. So to really to have that feeling that I see you. So
I
yeah.
won't,
So how can we
sorry, I won't
go?
even tell the people first off that I passed that stage at all. When they first start the conversation with me, I tell them like I'm still at the same place. I'm also struggling. So I'm there right next to you. So you also talk to me. I'll also talk to you about my problems. Let's try to help each other. That's how I start the conversation. Once they start putting their complete thoughts or like whatever they needed, that's when I'll start slowly like, hey, I think if this works with you, let's try this. Or like, yeah, man, if you wanted to try something else. I keep making them to ask questions or like making them to get their own thought process, because how much ever you push somebody, it should come from within. They should have the inner strength to take what you are giving to them. So if you are just like pouring whatever you have, they should have that ability to take that and to drink that whatever you are giving to them. If they don't have that ability to take what you are giving, there is no point in you keep telling them like, yeah, hey, you have to do that, you have to do this. I like, these are the steps that you have to take to get in here or any of it. First, you have to let them do that, and then yeah, you can give that hand.
Mm, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. There's that saying, you can give a man a fish, but you
Yeah.
can also teach a man how to fish.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. So we've come to the end of our show, and I am just so, grateful. I'm so grateful because, number one, we've been able to share so much of ourselves tonight, and to just have the company of everyone's watching here, and to know that today we have tried our best to make a difference, and we've been able to open up and to say that whoever is out there, we see you. And so I thank you again for all those listeners and viewers that are here every Sunday evening on the Atomic Self Love Project. And from my heart and the listeners' heart, Smita, we thank you so much for your graceful, beautiful presence tonight. I'm going to end the live on Facebook, but you and I stay on the Zoom. So bye, everybody. Good night. We will see you on Valentine's Day.
Thank you for everybody tuning in and hearing to my story and pouring all that love. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And you've got people saying thank you. Um, yeah, yes, indeed, you shared your story and you've helped many. Wow, thank you for that. Um, and there's a message from DJ Kanuta. So, Smita, how am I able to reach out to you? Do you have a personal Facebook page that I can follow? So, make you are such an amazing woman. So, so you'll be able to see these comments later on and just respond to these comments.
For sure.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right. Good night, everyone. Bye. Bye. We love you. Happy Valentine's Day. See you then. Bye.